morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million online rendezvous. This is Sramana Mitra coming to you live from Menlo Park, California. I'm the founder and CEO of 1 million by 1 million, the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. And we have been doing these online rendezvous fairly often in recent times, broadcasting live into the LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter communities on a regular basis. In our work, our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. We do a lot of activities that are touch points through which we interact with the global startup community. This is one of them. We also have every week free mentoring roundtables that over 150,000 people have participated in over the last 12 years. We started back in 2008 and we continue doing that on a regular basis. So those are usually on Thursday mornings, 8 a.m. Pacific time. If you go to our website, 1mby1m.com, and go to free public roundtables, you can register for one of those sessions. And I will come back and talk more about that later on in the program. In these online rendezvous, what we've been doing is taking questions. So we get questions from all kinds of different touch points through which we interact with you. And we collect questions from various touch points and try to answer them through our various communication mechanisms. This is one of them. So feel free, by the way, to ask questions in the public chat. That's one of the ways we accumulate the questions that we want to address. So I will either dialogue with you later after the video part of this session today in the public chat, or we will pick up the question. If it warrants a larger answer, then we will answer it the next time, with its due respect. Okay, so let's go to our first question today. The first question is, what mistakes should be avoided in a platform as a service ecosystem strategy? Now, the reason we are getting this question is because of the extensive coverage of platform as a service as a topic that we've been doing through every single channel that we've been talking through. In my recent article, How PaaS Impacts the Stock Prices of SaaS Companies, I mentioned an equation. Some numbers. Let us say a SaaS platform vendor succeeds in facilitating 100 small companies to achieve $10 million in annual revenue run rate each. That would add up to $1 billion ARR cumulative. 30% of this, or 300 million ARR, comes back to the company as platform fees. This conceivably amounts to a 3 billion market cap enhancement for the PaaS vendor. The reality often, however, is somewhat different. Let's take the example of Twilio's platform as a service. Uber was Twilio's largest client and accounted for 12% of its revenue when suddenly they made a decision to distance themselves from the platform vendor Twilio. A May 2017 report from TechCrunch articulated, a good report on revenue wasn't enough to keep Twilio stock from taking a dive in after-hours trading. What at first glance appeared to be a positive story very quickly divulged into a financial nightmare. Shares in the cloud communications company have fallen 30% in after-hours trading, attributable to lower than anticipated guidance. On that earnings call, CEO Jeff Lawson addressed the unexpected guidance by explaining that Uber, one of Twilio's largest customers, will be reducing its use of Twilio over the next year. This is 2007. This is a major hit for the company because Uber accounted for 12% of its revenue in this quarter. Twilio expects this number to fall over the next year as Uber moves away from Twilio as its principal communications infrastructure provider. 9 months later, Twilio started showing compelling revenue growth without the heavy risk of one customer producing an outsized amount of revenue. Former top client, Uber, moving its cloud communications development in-house used to be a significant data point for Twilio and its investors, weighing heavy on both the top and bottom lines. In this report, revenue growth excluding Uber worked out to 79%, and the Uber-less net expansion rate stopped at 148%. In other words, the lack of a big Uber contract isn't hurting Twilio's year-over-year comparisons a whole lot these days. This will be the last time Twilio bothers to report these Uber-adjusted figures. This was 9 months after the previous report. Obviously, there's a lesson to learn from Twilio's Uber fiasco. It's better to have 100 clients each producing a solid chunk of revenue than one client producing 12%. Thus, I like companies like Shopify, Atlassian, and now also Twilio, who have a diverse set of developers building apps on their platforms. Shopify, for example, has paid out over 100 million in app fees to developers in 2019, which implies they've probably made 200 million themselves off marketplace revenues for the year. There's no indication that one app developer dominates the platform. PaaS platforms should work extra hard to empower the long tail such that thousands of developers produce modest revenues rather than one dominant player. Okay, if you come up with questions based on what I just talked about, feel free to ask those questions in the public chat and I'll pick it up later. PaaS is a complicated topic, and it's a very major trend at the moment that SaaS companies are aligning themselves with. And I mentioned some of the leaders of that trend, so we will continue to cover PaaS extensively. So feel free to ask whatever questions and doubts that may arise in your minds. We're going to switch topics a bit. The next question is, what are some case studies of startups killed by overfunding? Well, death by overfunding is a topic we discuss often. We've seen a lot of case studies of this. The one that I'm going to discuss today is Nasty Gal, one of my favorite tragedies of the startup ecosystem. This is, what I'm drawing from is coverage that we produced back in 2017, January 2017, when the Nasty Gal saga was breaking out in the news. Over the past decade, online clothing sales have ballooned, and Nasty Gal and its founder, Sofia Amoruso, had managed to build a big brand and fan following among millennials. However, the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in November 2016. Nasty Gal's beginnings went as such. LA-based Nasty Gal was founded in 2006. When a community college dropout, Sofia Amoruso started selling a highly curated selection of vintage clothing on an eBay page. Within 5 years of inception, it became one of the leading international sites for new and vintage clothing, shoes, and accessories. The online store gained low-priced inventory by finding desired products from places such as Salvation Army stores. A Chanel jacket that she bought for $8 at one such store sold for $1,000. She styled, photographed, captioned, and shipped the products herself for the goods she sold. Obviously, an incredibly talented entrepreneur. By 2015, Nasty Gal was estimated to have 2.3 million Instagram fans and 1.3 million Facebook fans. It had over 37,000 likes a day on its social media posts. According to MarketWatch, about 42% of its active social media following was in the 25 to 34-year-old category. In 2015, the company did $300 million in sales. After it gained popularity, Nasty Gal was not able to source all its inventory from low-price stores and started sourcing its products from Los Angeles-based vendors who sell vintage-inspired products. It also started producing its own private label clothes. That was a wise strategy that offered much better margins, and given its knowledge of a large customer base, it could have managed design and inventory effectively by producing collections and sizes to fit its audience. However, in 2014, in a highly debatable move, it opened 2 brick-and-mortar stores in LA. Soon, Nasty Gal was facing increased competition and higher costs. It had to lay off about 10% of its workforce of 280 people that year. It was also plagued with lawsuits for copyright infringement and allegedly firing employees for being pregnant. In 2011, it was a co-defendant in a lawsuit filed by the Hells Angels for trademark infringement. In 2014, Jamie Spinello sued it for copying one of her necklace designs. In 2016, Pamela Love sued it for copying 3 jewelry designs. In January 2015, Sophia stepped down as the CEO and promoted the company's president, Sherry Watterson, to the CEO post. In her blog, Sophia says that she was pondering over this move for over 2 years. She had been wondering if the CEO role is one that she wanted and the one that she's best at. She stayed on as executive chairman and headed creative and brand marketing. Nasty Gal was built organically for quite some time. In 2011, before it raised any money, it had revenue of $28 million, 150,000 customers, 200,000 Facebook fans, 30,000 Twitter followers, and 50,000 Instagram followers. A tremendous achievement for a young entrepreneur in her 20s. It received funding of $9 million in March 2012 and $40 million in August 2012 from Index Ventures, and then $16 million from Ron Johnson in February 2015. Nasty Gal was doing well in its niche of vintage clothing and was able to connect well with a niche audience. And the internet and social media provided a great opportunity to find this audience. However, as Lawrence Lenihan, managing director of First Mark Capital, pointed out, we are ruining potentially wonderful companies out of sheer ignorance of the fashion industry and a lack of understanding of how technology will impact it. We are overcapitalizing companies and forcing unnatural, unsupported expansion. I agree. I have run a fashion company. I know how the fashion industry operates. Investors are overfunding these niche companies and forcing them to grow too rapidly at an unsustainable level. As in the case of Nasty Gal, this has destroyed the very fiber of its success. Not everybody can be a Facebook, Google, or Amazon. For most companies, capital efficiency and a sharp focus on fundamentals and unit economics is very critical. UK online retailer Boohoo is bidding 20 million, or was bidding 20 million for Nasty Gal. This was a while ago. $20 million, this company, became very unprofitable along the way of all this financing and so forth. Against a set revenue of 77 million, they were making 20 million in losses. So, the whole structure of the fundamentals in the company was destroyed, and therefore they were not sustainable unless somebody bought them out, and so on and so forth. So it was a terrible company. Nasty Gal today should have been a thriving company if they hadn't been caught up in the venture capital financed hyper-growth nonsense. Steadily, Nasty Gal could have grown to over 100 million in profitable revenue with no VC money at all. Nasty Gal had no business going out of business. It's a real shame. And I, as I said, it's one of my favorite tragedies as an example cite to entrepreneurs who crave huge amounts of venture capital. Be careful for what you ask for. You may get it, and then you may not be able to manage it. Okay, we'll go to the next question. The question is, what is blitzscaling in tech entrepreneurship and how do you feel about it? You must have read something or the other about blitzscaling, the hypergrowth phenomenon that Reid Hoffman has been championing. What entrepreneur or founder doesn't aspire to build the next Amazon, Facebook, or Airbnb? Yet, those who actually manage to do so are exceedingly rare. So what separates the startups that get disrupted and disappear from the ones who grow to become global giants? The secret is blitzscaling, a set of techniques for scaling up at dizzying pace that blows competitors out of the water. The objective of blitzscaling is not to go from 0 to 1, but from 1 to 1 billion as quickly as possible. Well, this is what Reid Hoffman proposes as the blitzscaling principle. Well, I have a small fact to point out. It probably is not an option for you. Hypergrowth is not a natural phenomenon in business. Very few companies grow virally as Facebook, Amazon, Airbnb, Uber, or Slack have done. Blitzscaling requires that you show a certain level of viral adoption, not necessarily monetization, of whatever product or service you're selling before investors would make the bet on you and shower you with capital such that you can run a river of red ink the size of the Nile. I'm sure you've heard me explain over and over again that over 99% of the entrepreneurs who seek venture capital get rejected. Well, over 99.99% of those who seek to do blitzscaling fail. Why? Because very few companies have the kind of viral hypergrowth in adoption that a Facebook or a Slack exhibited in their infancy. And without that, you will not attract the scale of capital needed to pull this off. So read or listen to what Reid Hoffman has to say. Smile, then sit down and look at your company with a realistic lens. The most likely answer will be that you need to follow a bootstrapping strategy, not a blitzscaling strategy. Good luck. And one more small point. Investors will not look at funding you at huge amounts, at huge scales, unless you've shown viral adoption by bootstrapping. So you need to bootstrap first to have a shot at blitzscaling. This is a small point that gets lost in this blitzscaling hype all the time. Again, folks, in all these topics that I'm dealing with, there are lots of nuances, lots of layers. I've talked about overfunding, death by overfunding. I've talked about blitzscaling versus bootstrapping. These are complex topics. And if you're getting confused on any of these points, please do ask questions, and I will be happy to take those questions now or later. Next question, what is the best strategy for a startup to be acquired by a big company? Well, my recent research suggests one of the best strategies is bootstrapping by piggybacking, which I explain in a detailed article. You can look it up, best bootstrapping by piggybacking. I'll synthesize a few of the core points for you. We've discussed all kinds of creative bootstrapping mechanisms. This one, I think, is very, very relevant and powerful going forward. One of the most exciting trends in the technology industry currently is platform as a service, PaaS. We talked about it earlier, and developer ecosystems, related developer ecosystems. The company that has knocked the ball out of the park with their PaaS strategy, Salesforce.com, They launched their platform over a decade back, and many substantial companies and numerous sustainable small businesses have been built on it. Viva, for example, was built this way with a small amount of capital, and today boasts over 1 billion in revenue and over 20 billion in market cap. My hypothesis is that of the 200 plus SaaS companies that have achieved scale, we would see a set that would break out and become significant PaaS players. This means the industry would have 20 to 50 PaaS platforms with serious developer ecosystems and app marketplaces. The PaaS vendors would want to sell the apps developed on their platforms to their customer bases, take 30% in platform commission, and help support robust businesses while scaling themselves exponentially. Entrepreneurs looking for a capital-efficient strategy should seriously consider bootstrapping by piggybacking on these PaaS players. So that's, if you're looking to do a capital-efficient entrepreneurship journey, seek an early exit, or if your investors are looking for that, that's actually PaaS is very good. Bootstrapping by piggybacking is a very viable strategy. The next question I'm going to take is, actually next two questions are also about PaaS. There are two companies and their PaaS strategies that are relevant, and I've got questions about those. So the first one I'm going to discuss is Twilio's PaaS strategy. Twilio is a very interesting company. I talked about it earlier in the context of a lesson of lumpy revenues, but Twilio is the leading player in the communications PaaS segment that made it to our list of top 20 cloud stocks for 2020. It recently reported a strong quarter that beat estimates, but its profitability outlook was disappointing. For the fourth quarter of the year, Twilio's revenues grew 62% to 330 million plus. So the numbers are still very good. The growth numbers are still very good. The profitability is slightly, tame right now. So the points that I want to really make to you is just, in summary, let me just explain to you the products, right? With the help of they have several products, the Twilio Swooper Network, Verify, Autopilot, Task Router, Interactions APIs. They have managed to dominate the communications PaaS space. Their offerings focus on four principal areas: contact centers, two-factor authentication, bots/automation, and omnichannel. One of its recent offerings that has seen much traction is Flex, a programmable contact center platform that allows developers to easily build contact center channels, routing, and integrations. During this recent quarter, Southwest Airlines signed up for Flex. That means in the contact center space, they should do very well. It's Southwest Airlines is a good validation point. There will be much bigger customer uptick on this use case. Last year, Twilio introduced the Twilio Media Streams API that leverages AI to understand the sentiment of the caller and address issues accordingly. It also announced the addition of verified SMS by Google to the Twilio platform, making it possible for its clients to send authenticated and branded SMS to customers on their Android handsets. In January this year, Twilio launched Be My Eyes, an app to help visually impaired and blind people. Be My Eyes pairs cameras and video chat to help 178,000 visually impaired people to get help from over 3 million volunteers. Its chat function can also be used with specific companies like Microsoft, Google, etc., making it easier for them to get specialist help. Now, Twilio's major customers, we've talked about the whole Uber fiasco. But today, Twilio has 179,000 clients and over 5 million developers building apps on its platforms. So the revenue base is much more diversified. Lyft connects the riders with drivers securely using Twilio SMS and offers personalized phone support using a Twilio Flex-powered contact center. Netflix relies on Twilio to keep users updated with real-time account notifications and secure their accounts using two-factor authentication. Zendesk uses the Twilio platform to build Zendesk voice and add conferencing, video, and SMS capabilities. TransferWise uses Twilio's programmable SMS and programmable voice, as well as the Authy API for two-factor authorization. So there are lots of use cases. Airbnb is using Twilio to automate mobile communication between rental hosts and potential guests. So, lots of clients: Foursquare, Morgan Stanley, Intuit, LendingTree, eBay, StubHub, Shopify, HubSpot, Mercado Libre. It's a diversified customer base. I just announced a new deal with PayPal. So as far as I'm concerned, Twilio is a very promising company still. Its competitors include Cisco. Cisco acquired a company called Tropo in 2015. Vonage, it acquired Nexmo, a company called Plivo, which is a smaller company, and so on and so forth. There's a bunch of other smaller companies. The stock has done very well. It's following the earnings and the profitability guidance. It stumbled a little bit, but I still think it's a very, very interesting company. It's very, high growth, and I think profitability will follow in due course. So we'll do the same thing with another PaaS, another company which is PaaS heavy and has done very well with PaaS. That's Shopify. If you just give me a moment, I'm going to look for a more recent story on Shopify. Actually, let me do Shopify next time. I kind of feel like we did a recent story on Shopify that would be more relevant. So I need a different kind of data to be able to do this discussion. I'll get back to the Shopify question. So I'm going to go to the last question for today, which is, how can I get feedback from you on my venture? Well, I'm very, very accessible through many, many, many different touch points. The immediate next one that is coming up on Thursday morning is our free public roundtable where I mentor entrepreneurs. We offer free online roundtables, mentoring roundtables, for entrepreneurs looking to discuss positioning, financing, and all other aspects of building a startup venture. Up to 5 entrepreneurs who register to pitch will be able to present their businesses. They will gain straightforward feedback, advice on next steps, and answers to questions from me, and could quite possibly from one of my frequent guests. I have usually CEOs and investors as guests. You can register to attend, to listen, learn, and join in on the conversations via live chat. All who register will receive recordings of the sessions by email the next day. So February 13th, Thursday, February 13th is the next one. We also have February 20th and February 27th. Those who really registered to pitch will receive instructions on the preparation required, including a roundtable slides pitch template. We also recommend using the 1 million by 1 million self-assessment tool. This is available for free on the website. This would help you prepare to pitch. These are questions investors would inevitably ask you. So we suggest that you go ahead and ask those questions of yourselves and see where you stand. Some entrepreneurs actually go do the self-assessment, and then if they get stuck, they go do 1M by 1M Basic, which is our curriculum-only subscription, and then plug some of the knowledge gaps and then come and pitch to me, which is fine. You get more value from the discussion that way. So those are my guidance points on getting in touch with me. As I said, I'm very, very accessible, very, very easy to reach. Every single email you send gets answered by someone in the 1 million by 1 million organization. Irina Patterson is your contact to ask questions. So just go to support@1mby1m.com and send in whatever questions you have. Irina will answer. If she needs to get on the phone with you or Skype with you, she will arrange that with you. And you can ask her questions about the 1 million by 1 million program. All right, I will sign off for today, and we will see you soon, actually, maybe on Thursday. Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming today.